Hi everyone, I'm 33. Before I begin my story, let me ask you something. What would you do if you walked in on your wife, the woman you trusted completely, with two men in your marital bed? I met my wife, Tracy. She's 29. At the movies, I had gone to a movie premiere with some friends. She came with a group of girlfriends. There was an instant spark between us that night. Soon after, we started dating. We were together for a year before getting married. What started as a simple connection turned into the most heartbreaking love story of my life. In the beginning, marrying Tracy felt like a blessing. We were truly happy together. I did everything I could, as a man and as her husband, to support her dreams and encourage her to grow. The first 2 years of our marriage were solid. Tracy was kind, caring, and smart. She was everything I had ever dreamed of in a woman. A great cook, a beautiful personality, elegant and refined, and above all, honest. I admired her honesty more than anything. Tracy worked at a local diner, while I was a graphic designer at a company that specialized in banners, billboards, and visual branding. We both earned decently, but I paid most of the household expenses since Tracy was using her income to chase her dream. Before we got married, she told me she had always dreamed of becoming an actress, but she never had the chance. Her parents never supported that path. They pressured her into choosing a different major in college. They believed acting wasn't a worthy profession. When she opened up to me about her dream and asked if I would be okay with her pursuing acting, I supported her without hesitation. I knew what it felt like to have a passion you couldn't follow. I never became who I truly wanted to be either. So I encouraged her to join drama clubs, take volunteer roles, and participate in small productions that might get her closer to her goal. We even made plans for her to attend acting school once we saved up enough money, and I supported her not just because I loved her, but because she was genuinely talented. Yes, she could be moody and dramatic, but she was made for the stage. Before we even met, she had already taken a few acting classes and watched maybe 1,000 YouTube videos on performance techniques. She was committed, and I admired that. I never wanted to be the reason she gave up on her dream. We also decided to delay having kids so she could focus on school and auditions. We thought once she graduated, we could start a family. I believed that by then she'd be landing real roles in plays, maybe even in films. Honestly, I was the one pushing her the most, urging her to audition, to show the world what she could do. I wanted her to succeed. I wanted the best for her. Things started to change in our 3rd year of marriage. At first, it was subtle. Tracy began coming home later than usual, blaming rehearsals or last-minute meetings with directors. She started dressing differently, more provocative, more attention-seeking. Not just on stage, but everywhere. She became more distant, more secretive. I told myself it was all part of her growing confidence as an actress. Maybe this was just the price of supporting her dream, but deep down, something didn't feel right. One night, I made her favorite dinner. I lit candles, cleaned the house, and waited. She came home 3 hours late. No apology, no explanation, just a shrug and a lie about rehearsal running long. That was the night I decided to start watching more closely. I never wanted to be the kind of man who snoops, but when your gut screams that something's wrong, you either listen or let your life fall apart in silence. I started noticing more. She'd smile at her phone, texting someone late into the night. She changed her phone password. She got too tired for intimacy. Suddenly, my wife, the woman who used to confide in me about everything, became a stranger living in our home. The final blow came on a Thursday evening. I was supposed to be working late at the office, but I left early. I picked up some food on the way home. As I walked up to the house, I noticed something strange. The lights in the bedroom were on. I wasn't paranoid, but I wasn't stupid either. I walked in quietly, and there it was. My wife in our bed with 2 men. She didn't hear me coming. They were laughing, drunk. One of them called her baby, the same way I used to. She saw me, froze, and then smirked, like she wasn't even sorry, like I was the intruder. In that moment, something inside me broke. The man who had sacrificed everything for her, who paid the bills, delayed fatherhood, encouraged every audition, stayed up late helping her learn lines, had just been erased from her world. She had replaced me with 2 strangers, like I meant nothing. But I wasn't going to let it end like that. I didn't shout, I didn't cry, I didn't throw a punch, but I took everything and I destroyed them all, one by one. I didn't sleep that night, not because I was heartbroken. No, because my mind was calculating. I realized something very important in that moment. They didn't deserve rage, they deserved consequences. First, I took photos. Clear, Incriminating photos of all three of them in my bed. They were too drunk and careless to notice. Then I walked out silently, left the house, left the scene. I never said a word. The next day, I filed for divorce. But I wasn't done. I began gathering everything I needed: documents, receipts, messages, timeline C. I had access to everything in our shared life: bank accounts, email records, her acting contacts, even her secret Instagram burner where she flirted and posted half-nude selfies to her followers. She thought she was clever. She wasn't. One of the men she cheated with, married with 2 kids, the other, a small-time director, the one who promised her roles in exchange for favors. I dug deeper and found out this same director had a history of harassment claims that never went public. So I made them public. I printed the photos and anonymous tips and mailed them to the director's sponsors, the theater board, and a few local news outlets. I sent copies to his wife, and I made sure he never worked in the city again. Then I contacted the wife of the married man, showed her everything. She kicked him out, filed for divorce too. Both men ruined. But Tracy was the masterpiece. I emptied half our joint savings legally before filing. I had proof of infidelity, which gave me the upper hand in court. I worked with a lawyer to make sure she didn't get a dime more than necessary. I also canceled her application to the acting academy because I was the one who paid the deposit, and my name was on the account. Refunded, gone. She moved out of our house. No more dream apartment, no more luxury clothes, no more weekends in wine bars pretending to be a star. She tried to message me, tried to say it was a mistake, that she was confused, that she still loved me. But I never replied. I didn't need to. My silence was louder than any scream. Now, a year later, I'm thriving. I got promoted. I bought a better place, one without ghosts. I started dating again. But more importantly, I sleep peacefully at night because I didn't lose a wife that day. I shed a parasite. And sometimes the best revenge is watching them burn from the fire they lit themselves. When Tracy asked me if I was okay with her continuing to pursue an acting career, we were still in our first year of marriage back then. Everything between us was perfect. We had never fought. Not seriously. She was like a sweet peach, respectful, affectionate, and loving in every way. During that first year, Tracy constantly applied for small volunteer acting roles online. But with no luck after a while, the constant rejections wore her down. She decided to focus on her new job instead, but I kept encouraging her, telling her not to give up. I believed in her. Then, a few months after our first anniversary, she finally got a response to one of her applications. She had been invited to audition for a local stage production looking for fresh talent. Tracy was ecstatic when she got the news, and I was genuinely happy for her too. The best part, the audition was happening right in our city, and she had enough time to prepare when the day came. She nailed the audition and got the role. She lit up with joy when she told me even better. It was a paid position, and most of the rehearsals took place on weekends. But I didn't expect how much Tracy would change after rehearsals began. For the first few weeks, everything felt normal. We still talked, still shared meals, still lived like a loving couple. The only difference was that we now spent less time together on weekends. Because of her schedule, she'd wake up early, tidy up, cook, then leave for rehearsal and return late in the evening. Even though I didn't like how little time we had together, I kept quiet. I didn't want to ruin her first real opportunity. And besides, she was making more money during the weekends than she earned during her entire weekday shifts. But as time went on, the distance between us began to grow. To keep myself occupied, I started playing video games, hanging out with friends, or inviting them over. These friends, I'd known them since school and university. I trusted them when I told them about Tracy's new acting schedule and how much time she was spending at rehearsals. One of my friends, Eric, told me I should start paying closer attention. He said, "You know, there are rumors about actresses sleeping with directors to get roles." I laughed it off, told him Tracy wasn't like that. She'd never sleep with anyone for a part. She was too talented for that. Fool. That's what I was after that. None of them brought it up again, except to remind me, just be careful. Man, new actors and actresses are under a lot of temptation. I didn't take it seriously back then. I was 100% sure Tracy would never hurt me, never betray me. But those words stuck with me, and I started asking Tracy small, subtle questions. When she noticed the shift in me, how I had become more curious, maybe even suspicious. She got defensive. She began complaining that I was acting cold, controlling. Eventually, I had to come clean. I told her what my friend had said. She laughed. She looked me in the eye and said, "I could never cheat on you. I love you too much. You're the best husband in the world. Only a stupid, ungrateful woman would ever betray you." And I believed her. Those words gave me peace. I trusted her again. If only I had known. She wasn't telling the truth. She was just doing what she did best, acting. And by then, the betrayal had already begun. The following week, she changed completely. I don't even know how to describe it with words. Our conversations became tense and brief. The spark she used to come home with gone. She used to be like a child, running into my arms, excited to tell me about every moment of rehearsal, even though I never set foot in the theater. I knew everyone she worked with, their names, their faces, their personalities, because she shared everything with me. We were so close, I used to wait eagerly for her stories every weekend. But suddenly, she stopped sharing just like that. Worse, Tracy became defensive about everything. She started taking offense at harmless comments, even the old inside jokes she used to laugh at. Then, she updated her wardrobe, started buying dresses she wore only to rehearsals, and they were revealing. At first, I tried to convince myself it was all in my head, that maybe the stress of rehearsals or being around new people was just changing her a little, but deep down, I knew something was off. She started guarding her phone like it was made of gold, always face down, never leaving it out of sight. Notifications stopped showing on the lock screen. Something she never cared about before, and every time I walked into the room, she'd either put it down quickly or leave to go get some water. I noticed new perfumes too, expensive ones I didn't buy for her, and when I asked where she got them, she'd say, "Oh, just something a makeup artist from the theater recommended," right? The biggest change, though, her eyes. Tracy used to look at me like I was her entire world, but now, every glance felt empty, distracted, like she was always somewhere else. One Saturday evening, she came home even later than usual. I had cooked dinner, lit a few candles, tried to bring back even a little piece of what we used to have. She walked in, makeup smudged, hair messy, and the scent of wine and cologne clinging to her skin. And not my cologne. She barely acknowledged me, said she was tired, went straight to the shower. That night, I lay awake next to her, staring at the ceiling while she slept peacefully beside me, or pretended to. That's when I made the decision. I was going to find out the truth, no matter what it cost me. I didn't want to be the paranoid husband. I wanted to be wrong God. I hoped I was wrong. But the love I had for her was being choked by doubt, and I couldn't breathe anymore. The next morning, while she was in the shower, I took her phone. She hadn't changed the backup email address. My email was still linked, so I logged into her cloud storage from my laptop. And what I found, it shattered me. Photos, dozens of them taken backstage, in dressing rooms, after rehearsals, her smiling in the arms of another man, kissing him, holding her waist, her sitting on his lap, wearing one of those rehearsal dresses. Some photos were more intimate, too intimate. Messages too, text exchanges filled with affection, flirting, lest she called him things she once called me, said things I thought she only said to me. There was one message that broke me completely. He asked her, "Does your husband suspect anything?" She replied with a laughing emoji, and, "He's too busy playing video games with his little friends. He still thinks I love him." I sat there, cold, shaking, not from anger, from disbelief. I didn't just lose a wife, I lost the illusion that I ever really knew her. I closed the laptop. I didn't scream, didn't cry. Just sat there in silence, with one single thought pulsing through my mind. I gave her everything, and she spat on it. But she didn't know what I had just seen, and that gave me power. She was still in the shower, still humming that same old tune she always sang when she was happy. So I smiled. For the first time in weeks, I smiled. Because now, I had a plan. I didn't confront her, not yet. That would have been too easy, too emotional, too satisfying for her. No, she would feel what I felt, slowly, painfully, without warning. I started by copying everything, screenshots of every message, downloads of every photo. I saved backups in 3 places, 2 encrypted drives, and a cloud folder she'd never find. For 2 weeks, I pretended everything was fine. I kissed her good morning. I made her coffee. I wished her luck at rehearsals. Even helped zip up the very dress she wore to cheat on me. She never suspected a thing. But behind every smile I gave her, I was watching, learning, planning. I studied the man in the photos, his face, his posture, the way he held her. I scrolled through theater websites, cast lists, production credits. Found him: Nathan Reeves, lead actor, 32, divorced, known for method acting and being intensely involved with his roles. I found his Instagram. He posted about the play they were doing, tagged the director, the producer, even the venue. Perfect. I followed the trail to the production company's website. Their funding came from a local arts foundation, the kind that has a zero-tolerance policy for scandal, especially involving workplace affairs. And then I got the idea. I wouldn't just take revenge, I'd burn their stage to the ground. I created a fake email account, an anonymous sender. I crafted a detailed letter, including the photos of Tracy and Nathan, time-stamped and geotagged. Attached were messages where Tracy bragged about getting a better role once I got him to notice me. The email was sent to the director of the play, the board of the Arts Foundation, the head of the venue where the play was scheduled, and, just for flavor, the city's local culture blog. I didn't sign it, didn't need to. The truth spoke for itself. The fallout came fast. 3 days later, Tracy came home early, pale and trembling. She didn't say a word, just went straight to the bedroom and sat there, staring at the wall. I asked, "Rough day?" She looked at me with dead eyes and whispered, "They fired me." I tilted my head. "Why?" She blinked, swallowed hard. "Someone sent photos, messages to the director, the foundation, everyone." I pretended to be shocked. "What kind of photos?" She didn't answer, just buried her face in her hands and cried. I stood there in the doorway, watching the woman I once loved fall apart in front of me. And I felt nothing. No guilt, no pity, just a hollow satisfaction. She wasn't just fired, she was blacklisted. No theater in the city would work with her now. Nathan, he released a public statement denying any relationship, said Tracy had misunderstood professional boundaries. Coward. She had risked everything for a man who dropped her the second his name hit the scandal list. And now she had nothing. But I wasn't done yet, because she still thought, I didn't know she still thought she could cry her way back into my heart. But I had already made my final move. She came to the realization too late. Her mother's words, her friends' concerns, even the look in Victor's eyes that day. None of it had shaken her then. Now it all returned with haunting clarity, like puzzle pieces slotting into place. He hadn't lashed out, hadn't begged, hadn't even raised his voice. He simply let go. And that, more than anything, broke her. Alone in the apartment that once felt like a home, she walked from room to room, haunted by the ghosts of a life she destroyed with her own hands. Victor's scent still lingered in the sheets, his books, untouched on the shelf, a single shirt left behind in the laundry basket. She collapsed onto the floor, clutching the shirt to her chest, her sobs raw and uncontrollable. But grief doesn't change the past. It only makes the silence heavier. Days turned to weeks. She wrote to him. Once a long, heartfelt letter filled with apologies, regrets, and pleas for even a simple conversation. He didn't reply. She heard from mutual friends that Victor was doing well. He joined a photography group, started volunteering at a local shelter, picked up old hobbies he'd abandoned for her. He smiled more, he looked lighter. And he had someone new. That was the final nail. Not because of jealousy, but because she understood, finally, what she had thrown away. Someone real. Someone who gave everything without ever asking for much in return. And she'd broken him. Now, sitting alone by the window, watching rain trickle down the glass, she whispered the truth into the empty room. I didn't deserve him, and maybe she never did. I stood there, frozen. The same blue Toyota Venza from the detective photos was parked in my driveway. He was in my home, the same man who kissed my wife, the same man she lied about, the same man who thought I was hundreds of miles away. My knuckles turned white as I clenched my fist. The detective looked at me cautiously and said, "You sure you want to go in now?" But I didn't answer. I walked straight to the door. I still had my keys. It was still my house. And as I opened the door quietly, I heard laughter, two voices, hers and his, from a kitchen. I walked in slowly. Carefully, the air felt thick, like the walls themselves were ashamed, and then I saw them. She was sitting on the counter, barefoot, wearing my shirt. He was between her legs, holding a wine glass. They didn't see me at first, but when they did, time stopped. Her face froze. The color drained instantly. His jaw dropped. He looked at me like a man who just realized the devil was real. And I said nothing. I didn't yell, I didn't scream, I just walked in, took my phone out, and pressed play. On the screen, a video of them kissing in the car, holding hands in public, checking into his apartment. Her voice cracked. "Victor, I can explain." I turned the screen toward her and said just one word. "Explain this." She stood up quickly, trying to come closer, but I took a step back. I looked at the man. "You're in my house, drinking my wine with my wife, wearing my shirt. Get out before I forget. I have self-control." He looked at her. She nodded, ashamed. And like a coward, he walked out. I didn't watch him leave. I looked straight at Tracy. She tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come. Tears were forming in her eyes. But I felt nothing, absolutely nothing. No pain, no sadness, just relief. Relief that I no longer had to pretend. I turned, walked to the door, and before stepping out I said, "You lied to the only person who ever believed in you." And then I left. I thought I could handle it, thought I could swallow my pride, ignore the shame, and pretend like it was all just a bad dream, but I couldn't not anymore. I watched from the shadows as Karina stepped in her office one morning. Same routine, same polished mask, but today I wasn't going to play her game. I walked in behind her. She turned, startled, her hand on her chest. "Jake? What are you?" I didn't let her finish. I dropped the folder on her desk and sighed. Copies of the emails, the manipulated numbers, the shell company transactions, all linked to her, and Clark, her face drained of color. "You knew." She whispered, "I know everything." I said, voice cold. "And so does the board." I had sent the package an hour before. Anonymously, of course, but my presence here was personal. "You destroyed everything we built for what? A few extra zeros in your account." She didn't answer, just stared at the folder like it might bite her. I leaned in. "You used me, lied to me, you let me take the fall." She reached for my hand. "Jake, I didn't want to end like this." I pulled back. "You don't get to want anything anymore." I walked out, not just of her office, but of the past. Let her face the fallout, let her explain to the board why their golden duo had turned to rust. Me? I was done being the scapegoat. I had my own company now, smaller, yes, but clean, honest. And as I looked out over the city from my modest new office window, I felt something I hadn't in months. Peace. I realized Tracy was at home with him. The detective offered to come with me. And I don't even remember if I agreed. The next thing I remember, I was inside the house, opening the bedroom door. And I saw Tracy with two men. Right in the middle of it, I lost it and didn't know who to attack first. Tracy was wearing sheer silk lingerie. Her hands were cuffed to the bed when they saw me. They tried to get up, but the handcuffs stopped them. I lunged at the blonde guy, while the other grabbed his clothes and ran off like a rat. Fortunately, the detective came in with me and stopped me from killing him. All this time, Tracy was still cuffed to the bed, begging me. She said I misunderstood everything, that they were just rehearsing a scene from the play. Her stupid excuse made me even angrier, and I wanted to choke her right there, but instead, I left the room and told her not to be in the house when I got back. The detective said he recorded everything on video and gave me the footage. I didn't know what to do with it, but took it anyway. That night, I stayed over at a friend's place. I was so ashamed. He was right about Tracy and her new acting career. But the worst part, she had a threesome in our bedroom in our bed. The next morning when I returned home, Tracy was still there. She didn't go to rehearsal, probably realizing what she had done. When I saw her, anger overwhelmed me, and I threw her out. Dumping her stuff on the lawn, she begged me, saying I was making a mistake and that I should give her a chance to explain everything. She stood outside for almost an hour, shouting my name, begging me to let her back in, but after her fake repentance didn't work, she switched to attacking me, insulting me, and calling me names. In the end, she left. This all happened last week, and only now have I been able to tell it, because since that day, I haven't been able to get myself together. I still don't understand how it all happened right under my nose. I wasn't some tyrannical husband controlling every step. We shared bills. She did most of the housework. I always kept my emotions in check and never made scenes. I say this because I've read stories where men ignore warning signs. Looking back now, I realized I should have started digging when the communication between us disappeared and she suddenly started changing her wardrobe. But is that what marriage is about? To start suspecting your partner just because they buy new clothes or stop talking to you because they're tired from work? I don't think so. What annoys me the most is that since then, she hasn't stopped calling me. I keep thinking about the footage and want to show that video to her director. Hello, everyone. Thanks for your comments. I'm glad you don't think my actions were excessive. Someone suggested I should find out about the second guy from the video. I did, and guess what? He's currently dating Tracy's director. The director is gay. I can only imagine how angry he'll be when he finds out Tracy seduced his boyfriend. By the way, about Tracy, she came to me 3 days ago looking terrible, swollen from crying, eyes all red and miserable. Unfortunately for her, I had friends over at the time. They said nothing to her, but their looks and behavior clearly upset her. She got furious that I was sitting with friends and ignoring her, and she screamed, "Mike, is this how you let your friends treat your wife just because of some silly fight between us?" I didn't respond to her outburst. Instead, I looked around the room at my friends. Some gave me sympathetic glances, others avoided eye contact. Knowing this was a storm I had to weather alone. Tracy kept shouting, pacing back and forth, desperate to break through the wall of silence I was building around myself. She said things like, "After everything, you still won't listen? You're the one who's broken us. You're the reason I had to do what I did." But none of it made sense anymore. The woman I once loved was gone, replaced by someone I didn't recognize, someone who lied, cheated, and destroyed our marriage without remorse. I finally said, calm but firm, "Tracy, this isn't about some fight anymore. This is about trust, and you broke that." She stopped, staring at me, tears streaming again. But this time it felt empty. I knew then there was no saving what we had. The night ended with her leaving, slamming the door behind her. As the silence settled, I felt something shift inside me. A painful clarity, a sad kind of freedom. Because sometimes letting go is the only way to heal. In the days that followed, I kept replaying everything in my head. Every lie, every betrayal, every moment I missed while she was living a double life under my roof. I realized I needed to reclaim my life. I started by cutting all ties, blocked her number, changed the locks, and told friends to keep her at a distance. But the hardest part was telling my story. I wanted to warn others, to show what can happen when you ignore those little signs or when you refuse to listen. So, I posted a video online, sharing my experience in detail, hoping it would help someone else avoid the pain I went through. The response was overwhelming. Messages from people thanking me for my honesty, sharing their own stories, and offering support. It gave me a strange kind of strength. Slowly, I began to pick up the pieces, getting back into my hobbies, spending time with friends who genuinely cared, and focusing on my own healing. I don't know what the future holds, but I know one thing for sure. I deserve better. All this time, Tracy begged me for forgiveness on the porch. I didn't go out. I just sat inside and listened. But when she shamelessly said that phrase, I stormed out of the house, ready to tell her everything. I thought my friend stopped me just in time. I was so angry, I was ready to attack, and I wanted it at least to be worth it. Before leaving, Tracy made a scene, talking about all our promises, about how I swore to grow old with her. I boiled with rage, but couldn't do anything, even if I wanted to. After waiting a bit and getting no word from me, she asked about that very theater academy I promised to pay for. I wanted to come out and say, "Go get support from your lover now," but I just wanted her to leave already, so I stayed silent. In the end, she left, lowering her head. I've already contacted a divorce lawyer. As soon as the papers are ready, he'll send them to her for signature. As for revenge, I will do as you advised. I understand that the director might not destroy her career immediately with the video, but he will certainly erase everything she has worked for in recent months. The very fact that Tracy slept with her director's boyfriend only fueled my desire for revenge. Thank you all.